Welcome to Coffee for Closers. My name's Alex Wellings, and I'm joined in studio with Mr. Tony Geraci from Suncoast Tax. We're talking more about taxes today. That's kind of been the gist for the beginning of the year. We're starting off 2021, and one of the biggest things that I want to make a point to across the advisor field out there is that this maybe not taxes, but the importance of a farm system. We can't just be hunter-gatherers. We can't just be people out there just doing seminar workshops or working lead programs. The tax model has been a tried and true model for the better part of a decade, maybe even beyond that, really, if you consider the USA tax time. But I'm joined in studio with Mr. Tony Geraci. Thanks for being here, Tony.
You're welcome.
So we are, obviously you started back with the USA Tax Group. With your tax practice, but I wanted to bring you in because you've been a top 5 producer with Megastar since I've been here. You are obviously a huge advocate for the tax model, but maybe not at the least. Last year, you weren't down at all. You had an up year in a time where the majority of the advisors out there in the industry, and it's advisors like yourself that contributed to Megastar's growth during a year like that, but you were able to stay, well above the rest of the field out there, and it's because, or I feel it was because, your tax practice or what you've cultivated over the last decade or longer. And so I wanted to bring you on and talk a little bit about why you believe so much in your tax practice, how you got going with that, and maybe some advice for others that might want to get into it or wherever the conversation might go. But thanks for being here, man.
Oh, you're welcome. And it's a pleasure working with you guys and just seeing the transitions over the years, see your all's growth.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the beginning, this is probably my 18th or 19th tax season.
Yeah. Shoot! Wow, it's almost 2 decades.
It is, and I didn't have this much gray hair to begin with. But, but anyway, that model just spoke to me,
right?
And having different spokes in the wheel from getting the licensing from the Series 65, the life licenses.
Yeah.
But then integrating the tax model into it to be able to actually make sense
right.
of what people are doing with their money, where their money is going to come from, and the tax on that money.
Right.
It just opens up a whole nother conversation. But taxation just doesn't end on April 15th. It just continues on all year. It's a conversation all year.
Yeah.
And obviously they extended tax season last year, which is, we don't know what they're doing this year, but
right.
it really, really helped in keeping that conversation going.
Did the prospects continue to ask questions about taxes? So I guess during tax season, where you're doing tax prep services, that's obviously an easy transition. That point, does it get harder? It sounds like it gets harder at the end of the year to get those people back in to have tax conversations, or what is, like, a lot of guys see tax planning or tax prep services, or the purpose of having it is like, this is just my first quarter marketing scheme, and I'm going to bring people in for that. And then afterwards, it's just over. But you and any advisor that we have here with a tax practice, it's part of the conversation year round. And so it sounds like this last year was obviously a longer tax season. You were able to easily have those conversations, but is there a big drop off? Like, do you stop talking taxes after tax planning season or tax prep season's over?
No, not at all. It's part of the process all year long, whether they come, that client comes from whatever seminar program we're doing at the time, whether it's Social Security, whether it's
bring that mic
whether it's a Social Security seminar.
You can even just tilt it back if you want to sit back. That's fine. Perfect. That's
whether
good.
It's federal, whether it's state, whether it's whatever the seminar is, whatever the conversation is, whatever the marketing program is always talk about the taxes, because first off, it puts you above anybody else out there.
Right.
What do they know about taxes? What do their current advisors know? What are they reading online? Some of the articles, it's just amazing what people read, and they believe that is the way it works for them.
Right.
But when you sit down and go through their tax return, they're nowhere near any of those parts of the conversation. And so being consummate and knowing about taxes just puts you above the field, but it's a conversation all year.
Yeah. No matter the prospect, it doesn't matter if you did their tax prep service or preparation for them that year. Like, literally, no matter where you get the prospect, how soon do you start talking about their taxes? Right from the get-go?
Right from the get-go. And that, because it's, where else can you at least talk a language that you can help them just by looking at their tax return.
Yeah.
And the moving parts that are available on a tax return. And if you're an advisor of some sort, it would be a really good idea to get very in tune with the tax picture.
Sure. So do you so I guess bring us back a little bit. Did you start by doing workshops, or were you doing anything before you started doing the tax model, or did you jump straight into taxes? I mean, I know you found Steve Hand and USA Tax back then, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever asked you. Did you have a career pre USA Tax in this space as an independent advisor?
Well, we were just chasing down leads,
sure,
knocking on doors, cold calling, whatever it was, just to get in, and whatever that product was, usually Medicare or long-term care or something.
Okay.
But then that annuity world, annuity, yeah. So back in those days, most people don't even know what it is. But and then also when you get into the financial planning part of it, no, it started with just learning and understanding the seminar process. And then how do you integrate the taxes into it?
Right.
And so right from the get-go, that I started with the Megastar USA Tax type deal, that it's natural. Just go right into the tax season of the spring of the next year.
Right.
And get it set up, get it ready, get it going.
Yeah.
And it just continued on from there every single year. It's just natural. It became so natural to talk about taxes because most people, they're in the dark.
Yeah.
They really don't know, and their current advisors don't know.
Right.
I hear so many times people talk, well, my CPA, and I ask a simple question. Well, if you, just simple questions.
Right.
And they go, well, why didn't he tell me about that? Why didn't he make that recommendation? Let me run it by him.
Right.
And it's like, well, go ahead. But they should have been and could have been helping you in these areas all these years.
Right.
And they're just simple things.
Do you see people start to come back and then after you've given that advice, maybe they go check with that CPA and the CPA either agrees or disagrees or whatever, but they come back, they do business with you, and then now they want to get their taxes done with you therefore after? Or, I mean, obviously it's easier if you're already doing their tax planning or tax prep for them to have that tax planning question. But when they come in and they're working with a CPA and they want to talk to a CPA, do you try to work them back in to start doing their tax prep services after that? Or how does that work?
It's all an integrated process.
Sure.
As you say, it's in the book.
Right. Gotcha.
It's in the manual. But the whole idea is, you have most folks, they keep their tax preparer on one side, they keep their financial advisor on the other,
right?
And the two don't talk. So obviously, in that, just to bring that conversation into one office, I explain to them, well, this person over here is doing these things, which is all this guy over here is doing is reporting it to you and the IRS.
Right.
So it's reactionary. So we teach them how do you get on the front end of that, control the way that their incomes come in, control their tax, and have tax planning. And that's natural. They don't have to become full service financial advisors for us to prepare their taxes or to even become a client. And that's a little anxiety. Some people think they got to cut everybody loose and get you on board as a sole person. No, but I've always said this over the years, just please come in and ask my advice, not my permission.
Right. That's great.
Just ask my advice.
Yeah.
I want to go and buy a boat. I want to go and buy a car. I want to go and give this to the grandkids. I want to give this to charity.
Right.
Just talk about it and go, well, let's find out the source of the money. And if that other broker or that other account is where it's going to come from, I'll share with you why. If it's under my management, I'll explain to them why and how much and which sources.
Right.
Whether it's capital gains or dividends or IRAs or annuity distributions or cash in the bank. So
you just rattled off a bunch of tax relevant words, right? these are people. I mean, the majority of advisors, they don't even go. They steer clear. They're scared of it, right? They don't want to know. They're almost scared from a liability standpoint, so they just don't even start walking down that road of capital gains or any of the line items on a 1040. They just steer clear of it. Where did you learn all of that, or how did you learn it? Was it just over a career? Did you have, like we were talking with Cam McCarty yesterday, and Cam was telling us that, for the majority of the tax planning or tax advice, he'll bring in his CPA into the office with him and have the tax or the CPA there to give advice. Do you do that, or is it primarily coming from the old noggin, or what is it?
It's knowledge base, of course.
Right.
And the more you immerse yourself in and become a career,
right,
instead of just a job or a little stepping stone in your life. It's a job, it's a career, and when you get very intimate with it, is the software answers a lot of the questions in order to build what their tax, their income streams are that you can't change.
Right.
But then there's moving parts on that tax return. So we do a tax return model or comparison.
Right.
That if you do these things, this is what it would look like. And the software answers a lot of it. But knowing through, it's not, as I say, it's not rocket science, but you have to know, how does a capital gain act? How does a dividend act? How does ordinary income act? Whether it's a CD or an annuity income, IRA income, Roth IRA, all those types of things. It's in the book. I mean, it's training that comes through USA Tax. It's meeting with when you get invited to these. It's not just a party. It's a time to get and learn and educate one another.
Sure.
And then you take that back to your office and know, how do you implement? How does Social Security react in these certain income streams? How does sources of income, when they need more income, from and RMDs, and all that comes into it, today's planning and for tomorrow's planning. So if you've got someone that's 67 years old and you start saying, well, you've got 80% of your money is in an IRA. Right. Are you ready for the tax bomb? Do you understand what the IRA
you
requirements
hit them with that
are?
cliffhanger, right? And they're sitting there just like, what tax bomb, right?
Oh, yeah. Right. And you go, what are you going to do in 4 years with the person you're currently dealing with?
Right.
And I go, what do you mean?
Right.
Well, you've got to understand, you're required to pull money out of that.
Right.
And what's it going to do tax-wise? Well, they say. I said, well, instead of they say, why don't we just show you under current tax law what a required minimum distribution will look like for you at 70, nowadays 72, what it will look like for you. And they just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then you drive the wedge even further.
Oh, like, big time. Yeah. Because then it's well, has anybody ever talked to you about Roth IRA conversions? Do you understand, or anybody talk about that?
Right.
What tax bracket were you used to?
Right.
What tax bracket are you comfortable with? Does it make sense to do Roth conversions? And if so, I can show you step by step if it does make sense to do that. Right. And if not, we'll deal with this later on. And
you've been doing a lot of Roth conversion conversations this year.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's just part. It's part of the planning process as well. Whether they're a client or not, during that tax season, is to discuss and talk to them about Roth conversions, and then I just put them on my calendar in the last quarter of the year.
Right.
Whether they're my client or not, and say, your tax return shows and looks and see that you can actually do some of these things.
Yeah, take advantage of it.
And book them on my calendar later in the year. So I get to see them again. Well, there's a lot of things that change over, obviously in 2020, from February and March all the way through October.
The election had just happened too, right then. I mean, that shifted a lot of people's minds with the current election on Roth conversions. I saw a big uptick. And folks that are like, well, now I know for certain taxes are probably going to go up, which, undoubtedly probably would have, no matter who was in office, right? They would have had to. But I saw a huge conversation shift across all guys that weren't talking about taxes out there and guys that were already, like, just started going down that Roth conversion. But for the guys like yourself who have been doing taxes for a long, long time, that conversation shift was so easy because you to your clients are already a tax expert, and to start talking about even more heavily about the Roth conversion, I'm sure it was a breeze to make that transition. Whereas some advisors out there that don't talk about taxes, it's like all of a sudden, this is my financial guy. Why are you here talking to me about taxes? I go to my CPA for that. And now they have to cross that bridge that you've been crossing this entire time.
Certainly.
Right. So that's interesting. So you kind of learned all of this along the way. I see that with Lee too. Lee is the same way. He got some foundational tax prep knowledge in the get-go, but he's acquired knowledge, and I think he used to bring Gil, our internal CPA over there, into appointments a lot more than he does these days. Obviously, his knowledge base is going up a lot. But when you first came in, Or I guess maybe walk us through, was there a class that you took with Steve Hand back then that he kind of laid foundation? Did you go do, I've heard Ryan talk about going to, what is that tax prep, H&R Block, is that it? You can actually go to the H&R Block, say that you want to train with them and be an employee. Now, I'm not condoning this, and I don't think anybody should do this, but Ryan has mentioned to some tax prep people to go get trained by H&R Block and just quit and then go and do your own tax prep services.
Well, funny story for you.
Yeah.
As we originally, the folks that we have been working with for many years, the folks at BI and so on, the Ryan McCarty, Cameron McCarty.
Yeah.
So names, family businesses. Well,
Clan,
I sought over the years to take advantage of my familial setting. I've got the 3 girls and the boy. Well, the oldest, I'll just say under 16 years old, at about the age of 14, she started working in the office, doing some of the tax prep, the clerical type stuff and putting them together. Well, over time, we sent her to H&R school. Okay.
So you did.
Absolutely. And so there's a model that they have at H&R Block, and it's wonderful. It's a great learning.
Yeah.
But we're of all the things, you pay your money to go to the class.
Yeah.
Okay. My daughter actually got fired from the class.
No crap.
No.
Really? Wow.
She got walked and said because she started asking questions about Schedule D transactions, and she started asking questions about Schedule A, and they're going, you must have a job somewhere else
that's right,
and something else going, and you're using us. But without Daddy getting involved, she fought her way back in and said, I paid the tuition. I'm going to get and finish this class, and you're going to give me my certificate or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And it's my decision if you can present an employment opportunity that presents a career path for me.
Yeah.
Then sell me that.
Right.
And they don't want, it's kind of keep them in the dark for a while, and because they have their model. But obviously she's running our second office this year.
Yep.
Obviously we had a little setback last year with getting the advertising stuff with COVID, but but we're up and running on that. But yeah, you have to start somewhere. But USA Tax did have and does have, and Megastar has now, just kept flowing with those classes to sit down. Folks like myself or Gil and folks to come in and teach those classes. Preparing the tax return is just part of it. Right. It's understanding all the moving parts on the tax return, where your opportunities are to give good, sound advice, to move the income streams more efficiently. In some places, eliminate certain 1099 income streams. There's plenty of times the advisors just send an income to them. Right. And you go, well, why would they send it from the IRA? Well, because it's the bigger bucket. It's the biggest pile. And you go, well, the withdrawal rate rules and all this apply. You go, well, why wouldn't you take some from your dividends or some from your capital gains areas and stop that, because you're not forced to until you're 72, and that's 70 and a half. And that's a conversation that just blows their mind. I could have been saving taxes for years because the source of income's coming from, I say, the wrong account, the most inefficient account currently. When you could be doing that for years.
Deferring the other account,
letting it compound, and then we'll deal with RMDs later on. Or if you're able to reduce the taxes, go ahead and come back through the other way and start converting the IRA for the time allowed into the Roth IRA.
Right. Well, these are the conversations that just I don't see happening when I sit down with advisors in the field and listen to them kind of run me through what their pre-pitch to even say federal employees are going to be. They'll walk in, they're just going to talk about the benefits, but they don't incorporate the taxes. Now, Paul Amini, he has started talking about taxes recently. Have you met Ryan Palomini before?
I don't believe I have.
No, Ryan's up in North Carolina. He's on a rocket ship up to the top of the top 10 up here at Megastar.
Great.
And he started as a mortgage protection guy.
Wow.
He was doing mortgage protection probably 5 years ago. He's committed to this virtual model, and he started training with Lee a little bit and started learning some of the taxes. And he kind of shadowed over at Lee's office for like a month or two, and then said, I'm going to do this. Like, this is the game. And he like you're saying, he loves it because it drives a wedge between him and pretty much 90% of advisors out there.
Absolutely.
Right. And 2, he loves it because the conversation, it just changes right from the get-go. Right from the get-go, he's able to be something different in the Fed space than what, say, the typical person that has approached federal employees about moving their TSPs and the whys of you should move your TSP or why you should take distribution from this account or that account. He's made a different story from the get-go, which makes them start to open their ears, which is his big point. Is they're like cross-armed and sitting there like, okay, why do you want me to move my TSP? Or why are you're almost playing into the government's propaganda, which is that some guy is going to come and tell you to move your TSP, and the TSP is the best thing going, so don't do it, right?
Sure. And
the second, like if you stick with that script as an advisor, they're always going to stay this cross-armed employee that just is like, yeah, they warned me about you, and I'm not going to fall for that. But the second he comes in, it's like, well, you know, talking about taxes from some perspective. No, listen, this might not be the best tax situation for you to sit here or do this or do that, and it might be from 17 other directions. But he'll come out to you with this whole new proposal on the whys of this is why we're transitioning it to take advantage of this tax rule or to draw from these assets, these spousal assets, before we touch that TSP. And we're going to keep it in TSP for this time, and then we're going to transition it out there. And the prospect is completely mind blown. And now they're ready to listen to this guy, and they'll go tell all his friends, and he's just been on this rocket ship in the Fed market.
It's a foreign language for a lot of people.
It is.
Tax talk is, it's just a foreign language. It just don't, it's nothing to be fearful, but over the years with tax code changes, it's created so much opportunity for us.
Yeah.
You know, that uncertainty and that change is nothing but an asset for us.
Yeah.
Because people go, what do I do now? How do I take advantage of that now?
Right.
And there's people in their world that their tax preparer isn't. They're just going to go, well, that number goes in that box still.
Mm-hmm.
Not what's causing that number to even come in and appear.
Yeah.
Well, that's the financial guy.
Right.
And so if you can change and use that to your advantage of sources of income in your portfolio.
Why wouldn't you work with, if you had the option to work with somebody that could not only tell you what box that number should go in, but also how that number got to be there and how we might more efficiently do that? Would you work with that person? I don't know a prospect out there that wouldn't. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, and that gets into part of that tax practice. And when you're sitting down and you're the owner of the firm and someone else does their taxes and they come in and they do that cross-arm thing, you know, they'll sit there and oh, okay, what are you trying to sell me? Right. I need to know, before we go any further and you get me my tax, what are you trying to sell me? And I just sit back in my chair and I just go, you got this all wrong.
Yeah.
You just don't get it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm here to educate you. I'm here to share it with you.
Yeah.
I do have to make a living, and I'm going to share with you up front how all this stuff can work. And if you see a value about building a relationship based on just come in and ask my advice, not my permission, do you have that relationship now? Can you call up H&R, your CPA, or anyone, go in and say, I need 2 hours of your time because I'm fixing to sell a rental property. I'm trying to look at my portfolio and harvest some gains. What is the true tax impact of me selling?
Yes.
Can you do that for free with your guy? With your H&R, with your CPA, whoever it is? Can you go to your financial advisor and take up their time and strategically look at income planning for the next several years and go, where's the best place to do it?
And the most tax efficient way.
And the most tax efficient way. What are my impacts today and tomorrow? And they sit back in their chair and the arms come back down and they're like, it's like you're talking a love language for them.
Yeah, I would just put all the arms would go down, all the walls would go down because I mean, what are you going to say? Yeah, because you hit that realization, right?
If you don't, if nobody in your world cares enough about your money and your tax situation to how do you tie the two together,
right?
Because one's causing the other person's problem, and if we can be that solution and share with them how to go about doing that, that's what my story is. And like anything, there's folks that stand up. Yeah. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next year.
Right.
And I go, hold on, just a moment.
Right.
And because it's not over yet, is it?
No.
Because I throw out one more thing and go, but I thought we just talked about the potential to take Roth IRA conversions. Wouldn't you want to talk before the books are closed December 31st?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's talk.
Right.
That's all it is. What's that going to cost me? Always, what's it going to cost me?
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't know what I can do or help you with at the end of the year because I don't know what your advisor's been going to do all year.
Right.
I don't know where you're going to do, but we'll sit down at that time, do a full year's review. And do you want to leave money on the table or not?
And you just follow up with them prior to confirm.
No, I book it right then.
You book it then, but I mean, you stay in front of them so they don't no-show you or something.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I was just listening the other day to a podcast that was talking about, good salesmen solve problems, right? They don't sell products, right? They're not selling the benefits of the product. They're selling the problems that they solve, right? And what I hear a lot of advisors out there, and we got plenty of good sales guys out there, right? They solve the income problem pretty well, right? The people need income, but the majority of folks, the most common problem people have is that lack of communication between the CPA, or maybe zero communication. Right? Between their CPA and their financial guy. Or maybe they don't even, in the Fed space, sometimes they don't even have a financial guy, right?
A lot of them don't.
Yeah, so they don't have anybody to talk to about these things. And so you're addressing a problem that most people don't even know they have. It's pretty much everybody's problem, right?
Sure.
Everybody's got a tax issue, or if they haven't thought about it, then they have a tax issue. And if they have thought about it, they probably don't know how to solve it. And you've got the solution for it. So you're helping them see a problem right out the get-go. And then, of course, you don't need to sell them anything, right? You just talk them off the list. It's like, please, educate me. I just talked to you for 30 minutes and it didn't sound like you've had any communication with somebody that could do those things. And if I'm telling you I could, wouldn't that be worth maybe 30 more minutes of your time? And yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. All right. Fair enough.
And part of it is education is number one.
Yeah.
I've thoroughly believed in that since I got into this industry. Is first, I need to be educated, number one. Right. I need to understand.
Yeah,
and then to pass that torch on and to teach other people and to explain to people. Because let's face it, we all have head trash.
Yes.
We all do.
Yeah.
Preconceived notions, people that wear a tie, people that wear a white coat, whatever it is, a preconceived notion. But when you start talking the love language, you start talking taxes, and you start educating someone, you're perceived in a whole different light.
Yeah.
I ask sometimes in my seminars, it goes over well. Some people, it glazes over their eyes. Some people, they're like, this guy's nuts. But if I said status quo, it's April 15th and you're in my office, and I sit down and I say, here's been your income for the year. You owe $1,000. Okay, you've paid nothing in all year. You owe $1,000 or you owe $100,000. Which do you choose?
Right. 1,000 all day.
1,000 all day is what people say.
Yeah.
I say, you've got a head trash problem. Because the 1,000 is a representation of a percent of the total income you've had.
Right.
So I go, well, then if I owe 100,000, so if you owe 1,000 at a 10% tax bracket on $10,000, which that's not even true, but go with it.
Sure.
You owe 1,000, you only made 10,000. Right. But if you owe 100,000, it's 25% representative of what?
Right.
400,000. Which do you want? Do you want to make 400,000 or 10,000?
Right.
And they're like, 400,000.
Yeah.
But most people go, no, I only want to pay 1,000 of income tax. I go, you're nuts.
Right.
Nuts. Now, if we could work on paying less of the 1,000 by working through,
right,
or less of the 100,000,
right, yeah,
because of some planning and the way the 400 came in, and and we can maybe mitigate some of that, or strategically deposit things in a qualified account. I don't know what, moving it around, right, and say, well, then you get the 400, but you now only owe 75,000,
right.
So re-engineering, rewiring, getting people to really understand, what are you really talking about here?
Yeah.
Because years and years ago, before I got into this business, actually one of the first tax seasons I got into the business, I'm talking with my tax preparer. My tax preparer was 65 years old back then. Okay.
Wow.
He's 83 today, still with me.
Wow, really?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He came to one of our seminars. He came in and he was one of our first tax preparers. He was our first tax preparer, but you'd start talking.
Yeah.
And I say, I want to have a tax problem someday, but I want to be able to take advantage and do as best I can with that income that I'm getting, and be as tax efficient as I can.
Yeah.
And so how do you take that for yourself, but implement that for your clients as well?
Yeah.
And that's what this tax practice is all about, is talking a language that is so foreign to so many people, that is that for you to be that person, as you say, to get that conversation going and truly building that relationship. And even yesterday, clients coming in, having just talked about Roth conversions in November, they're coming in now and asking questions about what do I do now for this year? What about the upcoming potential tax code changes?
Right.
And the conversation just keeps coming. And sure enough, there's an account, let's say clients will sandbag on you. And they go, well, what would you do with this 40,000?
Oh yeah, they do that.
This CD came due, and it's kind of like I don't know I'm doing it, but I'm looking through their folder of all their inventory. I'm like, they never told me about this and that. What else is there?
Right.
And at today's obviously bank rates, it's
super low.
The conversation's easy. You're making 1% with the tax on it on a CD. Why not 2.5 on a deferred product or something along those lines? So
I think at the end of the day, man, all the proof I ever needed when I first came into the business was that USA Tax, and I don't know if anybody watching remembers USA Tax, but USA Tax dissolved and is now gone, and the ashes of that came in and became Megastar, right? And we inherited the program, but when USA Tax was thriving, it was like a $900 million IMO.
Yes, sir.
It was a beast, and they worked on one program, the tax model. There was nothing else going. That was it. People ran their tax planning prep services. They did workshops still, right? You still did workshops. And
Absolutely.
But this was the backbone of the practice. You get them in, you talk taxes, and this is the sales process. You're always going to include taxes. And like Palmy says, like you're saying, it throws people a curveball. They've been in maybe 4 or 5 different financial planning appointments in their lifetime. Maybe not. Who knows? But you're the first person throwing this tax curveball at them, and it doesn't sound like any other conversation, which gets people naturally to let their guard down and be inquisitive rather than like shut down. And so USA Tax thrives on this. And then all of a sudden, when I started coming in here, I'd start talking to advisors, and they're like, "Oh, that's antiquated. It's old. It's dead. That tax thing, it ran its course. It's over. People don't do it." I say, "What's changed? Nothing."
How'd that work for you last year?
Right? How'd that work for you last year? Right? Like no farm system. You're sitting there. You're doing 100 workshops a year. How many of you guys watching this are doing 100 workshops a year? And the second coronavirus hit, you had no book to work, maybe a few clients that were like dangling, but you're a hunter-gatherer. If you, in your heart of hearts, you know you're a hunter-gatherer, and you work the leads that are fresh and hot, and all the ones that came in, maybe even the clients you have, you're not paying enough attention to them to all of a sudden come back to them now and start warming them back up. It was a long process. Maybe they started closing business at the end of the year, but it took them 6-7 months to warm those people back up and get them back in and start closing business. But for you and all of our tax offices out there, you've got thousands, if not more, clients just sitting there. Clients, some of them people that came to workshops but know you're a tax guy and can offer some solutions. And because you're so well-rounded, again, what's changed? Nothing has changed. The tax model is still exactly what it was back then. And all of the guys that I know in this business that have tax practices are still thriving to this point.
Well, I guess what's the narrative? What is your backup plan?
They don't have one.
And so when legislation changes, right, and it's a windfall for our practice over time, because January 1, the Secure Act, unbeknownst to this whole Corona thing,
right,
the Secure Act brought opportunity.
Yeah.
So if you're a workshop person, or you're a Fed program person, or you're a Social Security workshop person, what did that do for you?
Right.
I'm sorry, what did it do?
Yeah.
Like nothing? Well, for me, I said, ladies, get the paper out, get the envelope, fire up the stamp machine, and send this letter out.
Yeah.
I have a newsletter I send out. It's just a simple with recipes and things. And I said, so you got 2 things going out in January of 2020. This our personal letter from us and the newsletter, and it says, what are you going to do? What is the Secure Act? What's in the Secure Act for you as a retiree? Well, quite frankly, it's significant.
Yeah.
Especially as when you croak, what are the kids going to get? What's the inherited IRA program now?
Right.
Well, that's not what it was. So it starts conversation. Well, then what happened? 3 months later, March, April, comes the the CARES Act, and you're in the middle of tax season, you have a lot of these people. I don't know if you've heard of the backdoor Roth. You've heard of all these.
Sure.
How do I get money? How do I take advantage of certain things? Well, CARES Act allowed them access. A lot of people under 59 and a half allows them access.
Yeah.
Well, we send another letter. What does the CARES Act mean for you?
Right.
For the next X amount of years and into the future. So come in and sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Just open up the conversation.
But you know what? A lot of advisors just don't have. They could write that letter. I mean, I will say, when the Secure Act came out, a lot of guys that talk tax or didn't came to me and said, "This is an opportunity." Like, they saw the opportunity, right? And they started to want to have conversations about it. The problem was they didn't have the people to send the letters to. So they're coming to us, asking us for opportunity to send that letter to, and we're like, okay, fine, yeah, we can spin up some more seminars for you to do, but we've been telling you for years that the opportunity was, you need to start building something that allows you to take a break from those workshops or what. But I know that was like your saving grace this year with these letters. It worked like a charm, right? And people were coming back in and wanting to chat with you a little bit more, and obviously wanted to talk about the CARES Act, Secure Act, all that stuff, right?
Absolutely, and those are leads that we had from workshops from the past couple of years in our database.
Yeah.
Look, you can't get them all.
Yep.
Yet the tax practice for 18 seasons now of a database that send that to. We've been talking this language for all of these years. It's just natural. But those that haven't come in, those that have never engaged, why didn't your advisor who has your $500,000 or your TSP, or your advisor that has your portfolio, why didn't they talk to you? If you're 70 or 68 or whatever age you are, why didn't they bring you in and go, there's some changes here for your IRA, for your kids, for you?
Just as you're saying that, is hitting me that all those conversations with federal employees, all of those conversations with federal employees that are going to stick and keep their money in the TSP, they're never going to get any update on any of that stuff.
No.
They're not going to get a call they don't have a financial planner.
They have nobody.
They got nobody.
And that's where those surprises come in. And, my motto, however you want to put it, Alex, has always been, just ask my advice, not my permission.
Love it.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Well, we were going to plan, and this was going to pass on. And you go, not anymore. You got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do it. The federal government did it.
Yeah.
But that distribution plan on the back end of this to a spouse or to the children, grandchildren, it's a whole new planning opportunity of what are you going to do?
It's one of the risks that any retirement planner needs to cover, legislative risk.
Here's one for you that just comes out a lot in conversation, is to talk RMDs.
Yeah.
What do you know about an RMD? Not you personally, but
sure.
What do you as an advisor handling someone's annuities, somebody's TSP, somebody's portfolio, if you're a money manager, what do you know about RMDs and what's it going to be?
Right.
Well, I mean, in reality, majority of people that come in and sit down and go, I understand, or I read, or I think, or I've heard, I have to take out 10%.
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
You go, where did you hear that? Where did you remember the
rewiring?
Rewiring the engineering, 10%. No. That was that 10% penalty for early 59, whatever.
Right.
And they confuse all this. Well, now what's the RMD conversation? What's it going to be at 72? What's the new table? There's new legislation coming out now. We're going to extend the distribution table. It's been 20 or so years since they brought out that table, and just start discussing that, because what are their taxes going to do when they got to take RMDs?
Yeah.
What's it going to do?
Oh, well, they're going to be going up.
And that's the opportunities to have that discussion. How can we control, mitigate, prepare for that? And then what we do for the distribution side of things.
Sure.
How do you implement those laws tax-wise as an advantage to your children or your grandchildren or your charitable organizations? How do you go about doing these kinds of things now or later? It's all about conversation, and it's inevitable. People need to talk about taxes.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to put a 20 to 30 year plan together for somebody, it needs to be incorporated. Absolutely. All right. Well, that's awesome, man. I obviously, kudos to you. Fantastic year last year when a lot of folks were struggling. Obviously, thank you for coming on and sharing some great wisdoms about the tax planning prospect. What about 2021? What are your goals? What are you looking for? What's the Suncoast Tax going to do this year?
Grow but slow.
Grow but slow.
Grow and slow down.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of all simultaneously. Like I said, the gray hairs, family in the business now, and some of those kind of things. But really, just keep on going. We have our goals for this year. We're still trying to get over that threshold of 1,000 tax returns.
Okay.
So as a small organization, we'll hit that goal this year. I'm very confident in that.
Sure.
We've changed our advertising up a little bit. The conversation is even more vigorous now about taxation with all the things that are coming up now.
No doubt.
And our model is just going to continue to thrive. And so we've got goals, and
that's really another thing too that we didn't touch on. Maybe we can save it for another time. But there's no retirement plan. I mean, very few and far between opportunities for advisors that are doing just seminars and lead programs to come up with some sort of succession plan or to move on. The succession is always a rocky road because you don't know if the next guy is going to be as good a presenter or as good a closer as you're going to be. But the tax model allows you an opportunity to slowly exclude yourself. I mean, look at Lee. Lee completely excluded himself from personal production in all of a year because of the tax practice.
Right, and that kind of is a conversation that clients have.
Sure.
What do we do what if you don't show up on Monday?
Right. Yeah. What if
what if you retire? What if how's this going to work? I said, well, we have a firm here. We're going to continue going, but what does my retirement look like? I don't know that I will ever retire and just hang up my boots.
Yeah, people don't do that in this industry.
There's no need to, but to go out there and have to work and do a food seminar or do prospect and marketing heavily, that's where this tax practice is. It just self-perpetuates.
Yeah.
It just self-perpetuates. It just
beautiful,
does.
Beautiful thing.
I'm doing more and more business, Alex, with my clients' kids.
Yeah. How about
more
that?
and more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be hip and cool these days. I'm trying to catch up. The word influencer.
Yeah.
These children, quote unquote, my clients are 80, 70, 90.
Sure.
Their kids are 55 and 60.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then their children and so on. So it's a process that we go through that, again, it's just a machine that just continues on.
That's what it was, right? They call it the tax machine, right?
It is. Yep.
Keeps cooking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you for joining.
Welcome.
Thanks for doing this.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions about how the tax program works, how to market the tax program, how to incorporate it, getting trained up on any of that, we have all that material right here at Megastar. You can reach out to our internal staffers here. And if you haven't met our new gals and guys on the service team, make sure you pick up the phone, talk to them, get to know them a little bit. They're here to help you, and with the tax model, no less. So we'll see you right here next time on Coffee for Closers. Thank you.